Hello, everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown, and I want to talk about the new Netflix documentary, The Truth About Jussie Smollett, with a question mark. And the director said he put the question mark there because he wanted to present both sides of this claimed hate crime in 2019 in Chicago, and let the viewers decide what they think, who's telling the truth. Well, I'm here to tell you who I think is telling the truth. And so is it Jussie Smollett or is it the Osundairo brothers? Before I get started, please do like and subscribe to the channel and check my playlists. All right, now I'm going to talk about some things they didn't put in the film, the documentary, that they left out completely, which I thought was rather fascinating, especially the defense. The defense didn't really want to address any of the evidence, which I thought was interesting. And neither side seemed to want to address his actual claim and whether it was reasonable or unreasonable that this hate crime should have happened the way he said it did. And I will say this, Jussie, who pops up throughout this documentary, he pops up and he sits there and he's very convincing. He says, my story has remained intact. I've never changed it. And he's a good actor. I think he's a great actor. I think he's a terrible script writer because I believe he did write the script for this event. And I think he did a terrible job because it makes very little sense the way it played out. So he should stick with acting and not write scripts. Now, let me tell you the basics of what happened. So then I'm going to go into the script first, or the lack thereof, a decent script. And then I'm going to get into the evidence that the police and prosecution had and why he did eventually get convicted, and how it is presented in the documentary, and what the defense said about the evidence in the documentary, or didn't, as I said before. All right, so basically this is what happened. In 2019, Jussie got this letter. And this was, let's see, what day did he get the letter on? On January 22nd, he got this letter. And it was obviously a mean thing. And there's some person with no art skills at all. I guess that is supposed to be Jussie hanging from a tree by a noose. And it's supposed to be a gun, although it looks like a drill to me. And then saying some homophobic and racist things about him. And clearly the person who wrote this letter, if there was a person who wasn't Jussie who wrote the letter, he knew who he was, that he was an actor, famous actor on the Empire show. And that's why he sent this to him, supposedly. And then a week later, Jussie, he's out of town. He flies in that evening, somewhere around midnight, 1 o'clock. And his manager goes to the airport and picks him up, brings him back to his home in a fairly fancy section of Chicago, to a condo. And he goes up there into the condo and says, oh my God, there's no food and I'm so hungry. And he decides to go out to get some food, and it's freezing cold. It really is incredibly cold, one of the coldest times I've ever had in Chicago. And so he goes out supposedly to go to CVS to get a little snack. But CVS is closed, and he didn't realize that. So he goes across the way to Subway and buys himself a sandwich, I think, and a salad. And as he's coming out of the Subway, two men approach him. And one of them says horrible things to him, more racist and homophobic things. And again, addressing him, knowing who he is. This is Jussie Smollett from the show. So they say these horrible things, and then they say, you're in MAGA country. This is MAGA country. And they throw a noose around his neck and pour bleach over him. And then one of them punches him and he goes to the ground. He says he fights back, and then guy kicks him, and then they disappear. They run off. At which point he gets up and he walks back to the condo, and he, by the way, this is where I want to point this out, where this all went down. There was a camera there, but it was unfortunately pointed the wrong direction. So there wasn't an actual video of the incident. But there are videos of these two guys walking around these are the two guys, which Jussie says are the two guys that attacked him. They're pretty much the only two guys in that area at that time of night. I mean, the police look at all the cameras, and those are just the two guys. Then Jussie arrives back at the condo with his food, because, even though you've been attacked in the street, you've got to take that food back because you are hungry. And then the police are eventually called. His manager calls the police, not him. And when the police come there, he has the noose hanging around his neck, and they're like, dude, you want to take the noose off your neck? And he goes, oh yeah, I just put it on here to show you what it was like. Like they needed to see that, because pretty much if somebody says the noose is lying on the counter, you can just say that they threw that around my neck. I don't think you actually need to stand and put it on your neck. And then he takes it off and he folds it up nicely and sticks it on the counter. And the whole story is a little off, shall we say. So the police do become suspicious that something is up with this. This story doesn't ring right to them. So they do start investigating it. And before I go into what they just discover, let's go to, does this story make any sense? All right. First of all, let's start with, he gets this supposedly somebody who is racist and homophobic, sends him this horrible little nasty letter showing him being hung from a tree with a noose, indicating that's what they would like to do to him. And then a week later, lo and behold, that's what's done to him by two white guys who he says are Southerners. Because we're in Chicago. So the Southerners that say this is MAGA country. If one is, one could say any part of America is MAGA country, or all of America is MAGA country, if you are a person who believes in the MAGA. But that Chicago itself, it's just a weird place to say this is MAGA country. All right, not the most MAGA place in the world. But here's the other interesting thing. Empire is pretty much a black show. All the actors and actresses are African American. I can pretty much guess that very few MAGA people, maybe even not that many white people, watch that show, just because it is a show of a particular culture, and it probably gets the major people who watch the show are African American, just the way it is. So you got the Southerners in Chicago watching Empire. Okay, so now they decide they want to go after Jussie. First of all, they have to know where Jussie lives. Okay, let's say they do figure out where Jussie lives. And how long have they been waiting for him outside his condo? I mean, do they do this every night? Well, but he's been out of town. He flies in. And they're there that exact moment when he flies back to town. They just happen to be outside Subway waiting for him. Now, let's look at why he's even at Subway. Now, he's been on a plane. He says he's hungry when he gets back. All right. First of all, I would assume he's flying first class. And pretty much in first class, you get food, you get treats, you get whatever, and you can also bring things with you. And if you get to the airport and you're really hungry, and everything's closed down, because sometimes things do close down after midnight, there are still machines there you can get something from, which is pretty much what you get from CVS. But hey, your manager is picking you up from the airport. You're driving home. You're like, man, am I hungry? Say, hey, can we stop at that pizza joint right there? I need to get some food. I want to bring something home. I'm hungry. But he doesn't ask the manager to stop. And he goes all the way back to the condo, where he discovers, oh my gosh, there's no food here. Now, again, we're talking about a man who is quite wealthy, makes a lot of money. It's freezing cold out there. I mean, freezing cold, extraordinarily cold. Like what they call it, a polar vortex or something. It's that cold. Why don't you just call for some food and have it delivered? I mean, I think you can afford that. You could go and pick any place out you want food delivered to your condo. Okay, so you say, oh, it'll take too long. I just want to grab something quickly. Well, you could make your manager go get it, you know what I mean? But okay, so you decide, no, I won't do any of these things, but I myself will go out in the freezing cold to get myself some food from CVS, because he wasn't even thinking of Subway. He was just thinking of what? Getting a snack from CVS, which is pretty pitiful. But he changes his mind, goes to Subway, and lo and behold, these two racist guys, these Southerners, just happen to be waiting for him. Whether they would have no idea he would be in town that night. They would have no idea he'd have any reason if he did come home without eating. I mean, they wouldn't know that. They would have no reason to believe at 1 o'clock in the morning or 2, whatever it was, he's going to go out and get food from Subway. They're out there freezing. What, for how long are they going to be freezing for? And they're just standing around with let's say, if it wasn't for the noose and the bleach stuff and the fact they knew exactly who he was, let's say there were some guys that were inside Subway when he walked in, and they're like, "Oh man, isn't that actor from Empire? I hate that guy." And they followed him out and they beat him up. I could buy that one. But you're going to tell me these guys are waiting for him outside with their noose and bleach for that lucky moment, or for some reason he got hungry and came out. The story is stupid. Stupid. Don't write scripts, Jesse. You can't write them. It's dreadful. Absolutely dreadful. So, all right. So that's the part they never talk about in this documentary, how stupid the entire script was, and how it makes zero sense. But let's go to what the police discovered after they're like, this is kind of weird, and I'm not sure we're buying this. All right. So they want to find out who these guys are that are on the street, because they're on the street. There they are. They're the guys. Well, this is where it just gets just so amazing. So anyway, let's see what we got here. Here we go. All right. So these two guys on the street, they eventually get into a cab. So, didn't mention, after the different cameras catch them, mind you, the camera that was supposed to catch the actual attack was facing the wrong direction. He apparently got very upset about it. Well, I guess if you were attacked, you would like to have a video of that. So I can't blame him on that. But if you're also wanting to stage a hate crime, you would also want this attack to be seen. And people say, well, if it were black guys who did it and not white guys, wouldn't that be seen on the video? So he wouldn't want that to be seen. Not necessarily. No, I mean, you're talking about a distance thing, and the guy's all covered up except for like a little couple eyes here. You're not really going to be able to see, in spite of what people claim, that necessarily you're going to see that they're this area around their eyes is whatever skin color it is. So, at any rate, so after they find these guys walking around on the street and then running past the condo, like running past the camera, so you can see them running, and then they get into a cab. Police follow the cab. They say we were able to follow the cab all the way to Roscoe Village. It's supposed to be the north side of Chicago. Anyway, they followed the cab there. Then they were able to get all the cameras in people's places. And there the two guys are walking in that area. And then they said, and after about 5 blocks, they lose sight of them. So they don't know who they are. But they know the two guys that attacked Jussie got into that cab and were taken to that area. So then they find more information. Before the attack, here come the two guys before the attack. And then what does it say here? They saw the two figures being dropped off. Yes, they were dropped off by a cab. But the cab says that the cab driver got them from a ride share. So the question here is, why would you switch from a ride share to a taxi mid-trip? Except you didn't, when you ordered you didn't want the taxi picking up from your house. So you got the ride share first, and then you jumped into it, got them to drop you and grab a taxi off the street. You're trying to cover your tracks. So anyway, they went back to find out who the ride share was. And it says here, there was only one ride from that area where the guys got out of the cab after the attack. Remember, they disappeared. They walked for a little bit, and then they were right in that area. Well, they found there was only one in that area at that time. And it was about 1 block from where the guys got out of the cab. And it was Uber, and the guy who ordered it was Osundairo. That's Ola, the older of the two brothers. He ordered the Uber. And of course, later on, there's also this kind of fun picture of Now they're not in white. This people keep not understanding how this camera stuff works. They're actually in dark clothes. But there's two. You can only see there's only two in there. It's just two of them. It's the brothers. Anyway, so now they've got this guy. The name of this guy who ordered it. This is Ola. He ordered it, and then the two brothers were together. Went there. They're like, who are these guys? Then they find out. Well, they work on Empire as actors with Jussie. As a matter of fact, Bola and Jussie spend quite a bit of time together. So they're like, this can't be a coincidence. What the heck? What are these two guys doing over there? They took a taxi, a rideshare, and then a taxi to the location where he's attacked. You see them walking around and getting back in a taxi and going back to where they live. But Jussie says, oh no, I know it wasn't them. The guys were white. I have no question they were white. Well, there were no other people wandering around in their area. And even if they were, I would like to ask, nobody in that documentary asked any tough questions. Jussie, what were these guys doing over there then? Look what time they're out. They're getting what they're going over to the area 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning for no reason near your place. Now, guess who knew he was just landing in that airplane? They knew. And on top of that, Bola had a conversation with Jussie just a little bit before. He said, hey, no, I want to ask you if you could do something for me. Could you beat me up? And he's like, what? He says, well, he wants to stage this thing for social media. And can you bring along your brother, bring along an extra person because I want to make it look like, a bunch of guys. So he brings his brother and he offers them money, and they were paid $3,500, which Jussie claims was for something else, some kind of drugs from Nigeria that would help him out. And it's just, there's no evidence that that's what it was for. $3,500 was most likely for exactly what the brother said it was for, which was doing this thing. And he took them to the place where they were supposed to do it. He showed them the camera, which I get later on. I read their book. They wrote this book called Bigger Than Jussie by the two brothers. Both wrote that. And they were saying that they should have dawned on them that was the camera facing the correct direction? And if it was, how was he getting the footage? But he is a famous actor. And so one of the problems is you give people who are famous a lot of leeway for, I guess it can be done. This is what should be done. I don't know. And they went along with it, and you can question their motives for that. They claim that, hey, they wanted more acting stuff. They're doing extra work. They're not getting the parts that they want. And if they can get close to him and do something special for him, maybe he'll give them a break. People do this all the time in Hollywood. They want a break. And they have been doing stuff, but again, not doing stuff that was getting them very far. And I've been in Hollywood. I did extra work in Hollywood, so I know exactly what they're talking about. And so that's where the casting couch comes in and doing favors for a famous person. So another interesting thing I forgot to mention was that when he came out of Subway, he texted his manager, says, call me as soon as you can. And the manager called right away. And he was on the phone when this thing went down. So it leads me to believe that in case the camera wasn't working, he wanted some proof that he was being attacked by these two white guys. And they said they practiced their Southern accents. So, because they were actors, So at any rate, so now the evidence is pretty strong, but this is what just cracks me up, though. They also have this. This is a video of them at the store buying the ski mask and a red hat that's supposed to be a MAGA hat. They couldn't find an actual MAGA hat, so got this red hat and a ski mask, and there were receipts for the noose. That was they found this stuff at the brother's house. So the evidence is overwhelming. These guys were the ones that, quote, attacked him. Overwhelming. And yet to this day, he denies that these guys did it. He says they were two white guys. Absolutely. In spite of the overwhelming evidence that these two guys did do it. and they don't ever address this really in the documentary any more than they address his ridiculous script written for this very poorly staged crime. But the claim is they're trying to make at the end of the film by the lawyer is that there were a couple witnesses who saw a white guy. One was some lady walking a dog. She saw a guy she said was white, all dressed up in whatever clothing, and had a little piece of like a rope coming out of the back pocket. That one I really didn't believe. I believe that information was already out when she was interviewed. The other guy was a security guard, said he flashed a light in the face of one of them as they went by, and he thought the guy was white. But, again, if you flash a light in somebody's face, a lot of times in a split second, the light might change the value of colors on people's faces. So, wow, that's what you got? That's what you got? And the defense never addressed the massive amount of evidence and the stupid story. None of it. So I enjoyed the documentary because I thought, first of all, we got the whole basic story from the prosecution, and it was very, very convincing, and all the information was there. And then we got this completely half-assed attempt from the defense to go, "Oh, we don't think he did it." And it was just pitiful. I don't know what the purpose of the documentary really was, what the director truly intended. I don't understand why Jussie Smollett wanted to do this documentary. I don't know who was behind it, because I personally thought it made him look stupid. Again, very good acting, but stupid as far as anything. In fact, he still thinks these guys had nothing to do with it. I guess the police made them say those things. Did the police also create every shred of evidence that also linked them to the crime? It's so nonsensical. So the ratings on IMDb are terrible, and I think it was very interesting, because sometimes even if you think, why are they doing this, and why is Jussie doing this, and who's behind this, and are they trying to rehabilitate him, or does the director just see an opportunity and he's saying whatever he's going to say? And I have a lot of problems with some very very agenda-driven documentaries, or very one-sided documentaries that completely lie about everything. I thought this documentary put out actually pretty reasonable information. So I was happy with it. And so that is my analysis. Yeah, I think the liar is over here and not over here. Stick to acting, dude. Stick to acting. Script writing is not your thing. And the motive. I want to mention the motive before I go. I don't think the motive was about to get more money. I think that's ridiculous. He was doing well enough. I think his mother was in the Black Panthers. He was pushing Black Lives Matter at the time. He was very politically involved. I think he wanted to be this poster boy, this poster victim for racism. And so therefore, look at this. He's somebody that people are going to pay attention to. He's not just a regular guy. He's Jussie Smollett, from Empire. And even a wealthy, well-known fellow just going out to get some food from Subway can get attacked in the streets of Chicago by those racist MAGA people. I mean, and also they're not only against him because he's Black, but because he's gay. So he's like the poster boy for blacks and gays and racism and homophobia. I mean, he, I think, wanted to do this big thing and then be a hero in a sense, because then he could speak out about it all over the place. And I think he was, in his own mind, trying to do something good. But staging a crime is a crime. And doing that kind of thing shows a high level of narcissism. The fact you're willing to lie forever about it makes me question what kind of person you are. Whether your intended motive in your own head had some reasonable thought, in the sense you thought you were doing something good for, I don't know, society, or did you just want did you just want to be that guy that could go down in history? You weren't just, maybe being an actor wasn't giving you enough excitement and enough. You wanted more people to admire you, and to, I don't know. It's hard to say what goes on ahead of people like this, but I think his motive was to be a poster man for homophobia and for racism. and he thought he'd be the perfect one to do that. And didn't work out well for him because he planned it so badly, so badly. And I don't think he's ever going to. I don't think people are ever really going to believe him. There are some people out there who are saying that they believe him and that this documentary had some impact on them. I don't know how, or maybe they're just hired to write those things. 5 stars, don't know, but I thought it was interesting. I think you should watch it. I think it's really quite fascinating. So that's my thoughts on this. Again, if you're new to the channel, please do like and subscribe and check the playlist for other things that I talk about. See you soon. Bye.